All right, good morning, everyone. I think people are still rolling in, but we're going to let those numbers keep climbing. At 9 o'clock, welcome back to Brain Turns 2.0. I think there's a lot of people coming back, but there's also a lot of new people. So just to give a brief introduction, this all started during COVID, when people didn't have access to meeting doctors and getting exposure to medicine. And we realized that at Lenox Hill Neurosurgery that this was a big part of education and outreach and communication that was going to go missing. And so we started a program. It's free, it's virtual, it's online, and basically exposing as many people as we could to medicine, and not just what doctors and nurses and physicians assistants do, but all aspects of medicine, right? Not everyone who's involved in a hospital system or in medical care is a physician. And so last year we did an 8-week program. This year we're here for 4 weeks. We've got new people involved. We've got special guests. We've got a lot of operative presentations and medical education. And really what we want is exposure. We want to create really a movement for students to feel inspired. It's free, it's all access. We want everyone to get involved. You can chat, it's interactive, and we're hoping to provide an experience that's really unmatched out there. And it's remote. You can do this from home. You get access to experts in what they do. And it's been found to be a really powerful experience. And so just so everyone knows, last year we had 16,000 students enrolled from over 70 countries. I think it was 84 countries total. This year our enrollment is already above 13,000, and we couldn't be prouder of this, and that's why we're going to keep going. So welcome back, everyone. Please, you can use the chat feature to talk to us and the presenters. We'll ask that during presentations you kind of lay low and save your questions, or at least deposit them in the chat. I wanted to introduce Ashley Rosenberg. Some of you may remember Joshua Katz from last year. Joshua has gone into medical school. He decided that this was actually what he wanted to do with his life, and he was successful and managed to get in. And so congratulations to him. Ashley has taken over as the Brain Turns czar, all things brain turns. She lives and breathes brain turns right now. And she's doing a fantastic job. We're super excited to have her on board. And a lot of credit has to be given to her for putting this together and helping us stay in touch with not just the students involved, but all the presenters who you're going to meet. And then obviously, Dr. David Langer, who's really, this is, his brainchild, pun intended. And so why don't you take a few minutes, Dr. Langer, give us an introduction, and then we'll introduce the first presentation today. You're muted, boss.
I'm not going to talk for too long because today's Thursdays are administration station at 9 o'clock. I'm going to turn it over to Jalissa Reyes in a second, who's, I think, exemplary of the types of smart, hardworking, and unselfish people that are necessary in healthcare, and it takes a team. Before I turn over Jalissa and her team, I just want to show a quick video. There's 2 videos. One's going to be to remind you to have fun, and it's the summer and we don't want to bore you too much, so the fact that you're here is great. And then I'll share my screen here in a sec, and we'll go. That's weird.
Sorry.
So I got to thank Flora Salmon, who's our marketing genius, for all the work she's done to make these videos and stuff. I'm going to stop sharing for a second, and then I'm going to come back and just to whet your appetite for what's in store coming next. I just thought I'd show a quick OR movie, just very quickly, just to whet your appetite for the rest of this rotation. And this is basically a video of an endarterectomy. And I'll just quickly go here. So this is what that looks like. Our endarterectomy in a symptomatic case using the orobiexoscope. So this is what a carotid looks like.
Share your screen, boss.
And here we're clamping a carotid artery. It's hard to understand the relationship here because we're coming in the neck, but this right here is the common carotid, which you're cutting into.
We
Share.
can't see.
The internal carotid and the external carotid, and we're just going to
Langer.
open.
We can't see.
Share.
Oh, no, I'm not on sharing screen. I need like help.
It's Zoom. We've all been through it for a year.
Forceps and an olive corona dissector develop Hold the on. plane between the plaque and the arterial wall.
Here we go.
Elevation of the plaque
We'll
and
go
the
back.
external first, and
So here's a carotid.
clip the internal.
This is the internal carotid artery, external. We're going to cut into it and take a plaque out. This can cause stroke. And this is to get you ready for some of our virtual ORs are coming up. So with that, I'll turn over Julissa. As I said, Julissa's been a absolute superstar in our department. She stood up during COVID and filled multiple roles. You know, one of the things we learned about COVID was everyone had to fulfill new roles and be creative, innovative. And it's because of people like Julissa Reyes and that have made our department really a special place. So with that, as we yank that as we yank that plaque out of this vessel, we'll turn this over to Julissa, and thank you for joining us. We have a great day today for the next couple hours and look forward to spending the next 4 weeks with all of you. Take it away, Jay.
Thank you so much, Dr. Langer. Welcome, Brainstorms, to the second annual administration station. We have a very exciting presentation for you. We have our leaders for the Western region. As Dr. Langer has said, I am Julissa Reyes. I'm Director for Ambulatory Operations here at Lennox Hill Neurosurgery. And it's very exciting for you to not only see the career trajectory of our leaders, but also what Western region is here in Northwell, how each of them has been able to become successful, not only in their position, but also in each of their sub-region. So it's a very exciting moment for you to meet our leaders. And Ashley, you have the presentation up? No, that's not it.
Sorry, let me get this going. Hang on.
If not, I could share my screen.
You should be able to share your screen, but this is the one. Okay.
There we go. And on that note, I would like to introduce you to our fearless leader, our hashtag creator, Wes is the West. Wes is the best, sorry. Emily Cahow. Kick it away, Emily.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting us to this forum. I cannot believe how many people are on this program. And Dr. Langer, kudos to you, talking about innovation. This is innovation at its best. So I wanted to welcome all of you and to give you a little bit history about from the administration station side, what is Western region? So can you go to the next slide? We'll talk a little bit about our mission of the Northwell Health organization as a whole. What is our ambulatory network encompasses, and what is Western region is about. And I will introduce some of our leaders in the Western region so that they could tell you a little bit about their history, just like I will tell you a little bit our history. And then what are some of our regional strategies, initiatives, and of course, a little bit about COVID, through this last year, what did we do to really recover, rebounce back so that as a health system, we can continue to survive and compete in this environment. So let's, without further ado, let's just go to the next slide. Let's tell you a little bit about Northwell Health. Next slide. A lot of you joined this program because you may be wanting to really understanding what neurosurgery is about. I like the term. Brain term is really very creative. And then, but Northwell Health is a big healthcare system. So here it is. I'm not going to read everything, but it really just give you a sense of like what is our mission, our vision, what to the patients and to the employees. Is really to provide the best quality care there is, and to the communities that we served. And we are very, very into innovative leadership and looking at what can we do to really have the patient have the best experience. And then how can employees work together so that we can be the best that we can. And we are just recently named as one of the Fortune 100 best place to work within the 20 ranking. So it is really something to be proud of, but it is not without a lot of work. And the work comes from everybody. Next slide. These are the mission, the core values that we as leadership, as a system that we try to adhere to. And I don't have to talk about the first one, truly compassionate. Who is more compassionate than the neurosurgery department, especially Dr. Langer and his team. Anytime you ask any questions, I just recently texted him about a referral for a patient, and then within like 5 minutes, he'll give me a name. So this is really talking about like compassionate, helping our patients at every way possible. And innovative, neurosurgery is very innovative, from their own apps to like talking about like this virtual modular for all of you. It is amazing. Now you just don't have like, 10 people coming to the site. You can have thousands of people doing a virtual learning. So it is really, really amazing. And we never settled. We really wanted to be like pioneers. And this is an innovative way of learning and an innovative way of teaching. Who would think 10 years ago that you could do a virtual OR and for everybody to see like you are in the OR yourself. So, kudos to this whole team. And truly ambitious, always strive to be the best that we can be, and so that we can all be together and truly together. Just like Dr. Langer talked about, Julissa, Ashley, and for everybody, it takes a village to make everything work. And this is really teamwork at its best. And then the last one is truly ourselves. Let's talk about like what else we can do. We are very diversity focused, and then we have all different types of employees, people, patients, and we need to be sensitive to everyone. So this is what we are about. Next slide. That's our core value. And so to really see what Northwell Health is about, this is just really a very high level map to talk about what we are, and where the little dots is really talking about our practice locations. And we really span from the end of Long Island, from Peconic, Mather, all the way to west to Manhattan, Staten Island, Westchester, and then, expanding into Connecticut. We also have some practices in Connecticut. And the health system, especially the medical group, the ambulatory setting, that's who we are, is continue to expand. If you look at the bottom, they give you some statistics really so that you could put it into reference. We have over 4,000 physicians in our medical group. We have 1,200 ACPs in there. And then we have like over 730 as soon as this slide comes up, it's going to need to be updated because we are constantly bringing in new practice, new locations. So we are between 730 to 750 practices. And then we have like, we're over close to $2 billion business enterprise. So this is what Northwell Ambulatory Network is about. Next slide. So the system is really big, and then we'll talk with you. We want to introduce to you our Western region structure. Next slide. To talk about the Western region structure, we need to explain to you, to this group, what is regionalization talk about. As you see in the map before, right, we span from all the way out east to all the way west. This is a huge geography. So based on a lot of the input from our clinical leadership, administrative leadership, senior leadership, our landscape is just so big for one person, like one group of leaders to oversee everything is just impossible. So so we move to a regional structure so that we can meet the needs of our physicians, patients, and communities within that region. So Northwell Health is divided into 3 regions. The eastern region, which is mainly the Suffolk, the Nassau is really Nassau, and the central region is Nassau and the eastern Queens. And the western region, which we are talking about today, is really western Queens and Manhattan, Westchester, and has a little bit of Brooklyn and Connecticut. So you will see. And really the goal is to really optimize efficiency so that we have a better way of organize ourselves so that we don't have to go everything through one central spot, but really locally in the western region, we'll make decisions for every practice in the West. And then so that we'll push the decision down focused on the delivery of care in that sub-region. So next slide. So who are the Western region leaders? So that we'll just give you a sense. We have a SVP Regional Executive Director, Kevin Biner. He is in charge of all the hospitals in the Western region, which is Lenox Hill, Manhattan, Eye and Ear, Lenox Hill, Greenwich Village, all in Manhattan. Also 2 hospitals in Staten Island, which is Staten Island University Hospital, North and South. And also in Westchester, we have Phelps Medical Center and Northern Westchester Hospital. So Kevin Biner, as our leader, will be responsible for all the hospital strategies, operations, and the ambulatory. So he's really my direct report to him. He's my boss. So my role is really SVP focused purely on ambulatory. So although we call ourselves the ambulatory operation team, we are very, very closely integrated to the hospital because the ambulatory team is really to have to continue to grow programs to support the hospital. So within my structure, I have 3 VPs, which I'm going to introduce them one by one so that you know a little bit about them. I have Laura Campisi, who focus on Manhattan and Brooklyn. I have Elisa Petro, who focus on Westchester and Connecticut. And I have Kristen Rojas, who focus on Staten Island and the Western Queens. Together, we are the Western Region Ambulatory Group, and then we help to meet with all the different programs, like we meet with Dr. Langer to talk about neurosurgery, and with Dr. Virender Singh to talk about cardiology, everything within the Western region. So next slide. So with that, I want to talk to you a little bit about myself. So I have been in Northwell for over 30 years, so been here for a long time. So I truly have seen this health system grow from just North Shore LIJ to 2 hospitals in Nassau to this big enterprise. So my clinical degree, I'm a pharmacist by profession. I started as a clinical pharmacist, rounding on the floors, and really enjoy being a pharmacist. And when I became a director of pharmacists, I have asked myself that a deep question. I said, do I retire as a pharmacist, or do I really go and try something else in a career? So to make a long story short, I went into administration and became like associate executive director at North Shore University Hospital. And that's when I met Dr. David Langer when he first just joined the health system. So after I became the operational leader in the hospital, then I transitioned to the ambulatory setting to learn a little bit about business development, learn a little bit about ambulatory networks and everything. And I love it because it really brings everything together, from like hospital to business development to like program development, and how the ambulatory operation grow to make this all connected so that we can be an integrated system. So really a true team player, in the sense that I feel that to get to where I am, I have to be a team player. And I really love to mentor my staff. My staff would tell me that I am a tough boss, but I like to see that everybody grow and then really expand their capability and learn. So this is really a little bit of my my model type of thing. I have the 5 things that I really go by, and I really try to instill in all the people that I mentor throughout the healthcare organization. Is really humility, integrity, passion, resilience, and flexibility. If you do this truly to yourself, I mean, you can do whatever you want to do. And I think you will be, whatever obstacle you will be able to face. So I think that really just give you a sense of who I am, where do I come from, and what my career path. It's a big change because a lot of people stay clinical, but I choose to do this. I still keep my license, my pharmacy license. Of course, I don't practice as a pharmacist, but it really helps me to understand the integration between clinical and administration. So I wanted to introduce, next slide. I want to introduce my VP who oversees Manhattan and Brooklyn, Laura Campisi. So let her tell you a little bit about herself. Laura?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I've been with Northwell for about a total of 6 years. Under Emily Keogh's leadership, I worked under her in surgery service line. Definitely go by her core values of humility, passion, resilience, and flexibility. Within the system, you have to have a lot of resilience, right? To be adaptable, right? And live in the gray shade. Under her leadership, I've learned a lot, but prior to coming to Northwell, I've been working in healthcare since high school, basically, you know, at a local primary care office, then grew into like, you know, radiology, cardiology. I grew in that position from like a file clerk into a office manager, stayed there throughout my undergrad as an office manager, but you know, that's where I think I built a framework of what it means to work in an ambulatory setting. You know, you do every single role, right? You get your hands into everything from the front desk to getting authorizations, et cetera. I went into, later on, after I graduated undergrad, I went into Maimonides Medical Center from Brooklyn. I stayed there for about 13 years. Started out in surgery in bariatrics, and I grew in my capacity there. And as Emily mentioned, you know, there's the hospital responsibilities and there's the ambulatory responsibilities. It kind of lived in one there. So I had best of both worlds there. I learned the hospital administration part of it, and then also the ambulatory setting. So it was quite an experience. I learned a lot, made great mentors. I left and came to Northwell as I, you know, pursued a degree in healthcare administration. And, you know, currently working on my dissertation for my doctorate. But my background degree is non-clinical. You know, Emily has pharmacy. I actually thought I wanted to do forensic psychology in my undergrad. I did not know I was going to step into healthcare, but that didn't go the route that I thought it was going to go. But it gave me the flexibility to understand human behavior. So I did my master's in organizational and industrial psychology, where I see it come into use a lot. You know, working in healthcare, you need to have people skills, right? I think that's the basic criteria, right? Knowing how to work with people and managing personalities is key in making your role successful. So that's a little bit about myself. Happy and super content to be at Northwell under the leadership of Emily and my my counterparts in Westchester and Staten Island. Next slide. So we have a lot of practices in Manhattan. Manhattan, I think, we're not, it's not cookie cutter to even Staten Island or Westchester. You know, the subregions are all different from each other. Manhattan is comprised of the Bronx. I also have Brooklyn. I have downtown, Midtown, Upper East Side, Upper West Side, 78 practices and growing. We have 35 physicians, 12 locations of primary care. We have 206 physicians in specialty care. We have 5 urgent care centers, 3 destination centers, and Northwell, you know, Lenox Hill Hospital. So we have Meath, we have Lenox Hill Hospital, we have Lenox Health Greenwich Village, and we're continuing to grow, and we'll talk more about that in future slides. It's a big area. Each subregion, with each community in Manhattan, has its nuances. So Midtown is very different from downtown and Upper East Side. And learning that is very critical to the strategy that we're building in this subregion. We also acquired Concord Medical Group. They're one of our big primary care networks, and they're located in Midtown. So that happened about a year ago, and they're going to be a vital part of our growth in the subregion. Next slide. So I'm going to introduce you to Elisa Petro. Elisa, are you on the call?
Hi. Thank you,
Hey,
Laura.
Could I cut you guys off for 1 second? You know, as we're in the last half hour, I want to make sure you, all the three of you, Emily included, and Julissa, talk about why you became, why this happened. I mean, while this is interesting, I think what's most interesting is this is such a huge, you know, potential opportunity for people to pursue a career as an administrative leader. And so I think talking about yourself, your journey, how you, why you came to this conclusion, this would be good. That you have other jobs? The reason when we think of this, I saw Elisa worked for Goldman Sachs. You know, I didn't know that. My brother worked for Goldman Sachs. But we know, what is it about healthcare now that attracts smart, intelligent, ambitious people to get involved with this stuff? And in a big picture, we want to encourage the youth of our country and really internationally to consider healthcare. And healthcare means doctor, nurse, ACP, administrator, not just MD anymore. So not to take your thunder away, but please use this opportunity to encourage these folks to be like you, because they need mentors and they need to see people like themselves. So I'll shut up.
Thank you, Dr. Langer. Good morning, everyone. My name is Elisa Petro. I actually grew up in the Bronx as a Yankee fan, Arthur Avenue, so really good food. I am first generation Italian. My dad is actually the youngest of 13 kids and grew up in Italy and married my mom and decided to come to America. And here I am, you know, overseeing the Western region. But, you know, growing up, I had to work. I worked in healthcare. I worked in doctor's offices. And I thought I wanted to be a nurse when I realized I hated blood. So as the oldest daughter of immigrants, and with language barriers, I had to always go to doctor's appointments with my parents. And it just kind of happened organically. I said, if I can't be a nurse, I think I want to be an advocate for patients that can't navigate or don't know how to navigate healthcare, because that's really what I did as a very, very young kid. I mean, I remember going to doctor's appointments with aunts and uncles and trying to explain to them or translate. Back then, we didn't have translation services. It was me. So with growing up that way and working in healthcare as a high school kid, I actually worked at Montefiore, answering phones at nights and on weekends while also going for my MBA. I was offered a job as a supervisor. And I always say, I was so glad I started at Montefiore, trauma center. I saw it all. And I really grew through the ranks. I mean, I could tell you my numbers. I could tell you what my metrics were. I could tell you how many patients were seen in an hour in an emergency room. And I was always their advocate. I tried to help them navigate from the emergency room to getting an appointment for follow-up and discharge, and making sure their families knew what was going on and why they were waiting so long. So that's really how my journey began. And then I was recruited to Jacobi, which is another part of Health and Hospitals Corporation in New York City, where, you know, it's union shop, and really learning how to navigate and studying the union book, because I had to make sure that I was a good administrator. I was fair, and it wasn't, you know, us versus them. So that's really how this really evolved. And I'm grateful for my entire journey. And Goldman Sachs, I wasn't that smart, so I worked at Goldman Sachs in healthcare. I opened up their on-site healthcare centers. So what does that mean? Goldman Sachs is really employee-centric. And if you know those that work at Goldman, they work many, many long hours. So I was really hired to open up their on-site fitness and health centers. And that became so successful that it grew into a global phenomenon. I was traveling to Dubai, to London. All the Goldman Sachs larger centers wanted healthcare for their employees. And then what I was doing in New York City was really working collaboratively with centers of organization, centers of excellence, like the Lenox Hills of the world, the NYPs, to carve out certain specialties that were high utilizers of healthcare, such as orthopedics. Believe it or not, GYN, women that work at Goldman Sachs wouldn't go for routine pap smears. So what I did was I put together agreements with hospitals to come on site to the Goldman Sachs offices in Manhattan to provide on-site healthcare to Goldman Sachs employees. We opened up lactation rooms, resting rooms, because remember, they're a global organization. So I might be on conference calls at midnight with Dubai and India. So I had to make sure we had resting rooms that were safe and clean. We also traveled with physicians and with Goldman Sachs employees. We made sure they received their yellow fever vaccine and any vaccines that they needed to safely travel internationally. So that was my Goldman Sachs stint. And then, you know, kids came into play. I got married, had children, and I couldn't travel anymore. So that's how I came back to the hospital world. I went to Lenox Hill, pre-Northwell, and I worked there as the administrator of medicine. And back then I oversaw the Department of Medicine on the hospital side. So what does that mean? That means more of the fellows, the residents that train, and ambulatory. We had practices, 12 practices at the time when I was there. And it grew and up to 19 practices. And then I was promoted. I live in Westchester, and I was promoted to VP of service line of all the departments to become their liaison with Northern Westchester Hospital. And that was exciting. And I did that for 5 years until regionalization. And then Emily spoke to me last year about joining her team. And how could I say no? I mean, it makes so much sense. And for me to really be able to partner with the two hospitals that are just magnet nurses, amazing hospitals in Westchester, where I live. And why not work in hospitals where I live, where my parents go for their healthcare, where my families, my friends go for their healthcare, and making sure that the hospitals and the offices are safe and providing the best level of care so that our community can receive their healthcare in their community. We're doing things in our hospitals that have never been done before in community hospitals. Neurosurgery, for instance, is doing, you know, stuff that would normally have to go down to Lenox Hill. Again, as safe as possible. You know, the things that have to get transferred to Lenox obviously do, but these are the things that I'm working on, you know, sitting at the table with neurosurgeons and vascular surgeons, really smart individuals, and I'm helping them be able to execute their vision in the community that we all live in. And it's so exciting. I'm thrilled to be part of this journey. My role is it changes. From 1 minute I'm talking about budgets, another minute I'm talking about new practices. You know, we're opening up in more than just Westchester and Connecticut. We're going into Putnam County, we're going into Rockland County, and every single catchment area, as we call it, has its own nuance, its own culture. So we have to make sure that we put the right people in the right roles and in the departments and in the areas that is the right fit for all. So that's really the day in my life. It's pretty exciting. You have to be able to wear multiple hats, have lots of gas in your tank to be able to go and also make sure that at the end of the day, to Emily's point, you have integrity and you're a true partner. And sometimes, you know, you may not agree, or you may want to push a little harder to get people to think out of the box, because we want to hire people that may not know the job, because we can teach anyone anything. But someone that is hardworking, that always has the patient centered in all of your decisions, that has integrity, that works hard, that can also play hard, because we also try to have a culture of friend and family, because that's what we are. You know, we spend more time in the office than we do at home. So if you don't like the people you work with, then you're not going to like your job. And it's not for everyone. I think Northwell really always pushes to be better, and it pushes me to push my team to be better. You know, we have initiatives, like we're working on a backpack initiative for the kids in our community that can't afford, their parents can't afford backpacks to let them go to school. So everyone's just donating even $5 to contribute to buying backpacks for kids in our community. So it's more than just healthcare. It's really about community and family and doing what's right. So I'll stop there and introduce Kristen, who is from, oh, let's talk about my region. Yeah, or Kristen, here you go. I mean, my region, as I said, is all over. It's Stamford, it's Greenwich, it's Rockland, soon to be Rockland, it's Westchester County, 2 hospitals. We have lots of competition, but our name and our brand is what brings our patients to us. So Kristen.
Thanks, Elisa. I was
Sure.
very impressed by your background with Goldman Sachs in Dubai. I can't compare to that. But my background is a little bit different than my counterparts. I started in the clinical arena. I've been a nurse for 24 years now. I started as a critical care nurse. But to go back from that, much like Laura, I started in a physician's office. So I'm the oldest of 5. Both my parents were teachers, and I thought I wanted to be a math teacher. So I went to college my freshman year, planning to be a math teacher, and I got a job in a doctor's office, answering phones and filing. And I realized that math was not for me, and I started to fall in love with healthcare. And the physician whose practice it was cardiology and internal medicine, and his wife was the nurse and office manager, and they took me under their wing and they taught me everything. They convinced me to go to nursing school on top of that. So as I was getting my prereqs for nursing school, I kind of started doing more. That was the day of HMOs, and I started working with insurance companies for them, helping them, helping the physician with patient care, where I would do EKGs with him. I would be in the room when he saw a female patient, and he would teach me about x-rays when we got the films back when you put them up on a board. So I fell in love with healthcare. So after I graduated from nursing school, I still worked in their practice, but I started at Winthrop in critical care. It was a combined post-open heart unit, trauma, general surgery, ICU. And I worked there for many years as a bedside nurse. And then I became an assistant nurse manager and then acting manager for a while. And that included a telemetry floor. And then I wanted to go back to school to get my master's. And I really never thought I would leave nursing. And my degree at that point, going back to my parents, I got a master's degree in nursing education. I thought I wanted to be a nurse educator. And at that hospital, there really wasn't any nurses who did administrative work outside of nursing. So my goal was to be a director of nursing education at a hospital and maybe a CNO, a chief nursing officer one day. That was my goal. Shortly after I graduated with my nursing education master's, I was working as a nurse educator, educating all the critical care nurses at that hospital. I got a call saying, we're opening a new open heart program at Northwell at Southside in the Eastern region. Would you like to come and help be the director there and start this program? It's an opportunity that I couldn't turn down, to be part of something at the beginning. And it was the best decision of my career to join Northwell. So I got to be part of that program. And even though I was doing nursing work at that time, starting that program from the beginning, I got to hire all the staff from different hospitals. We got to create a culture from the ground up start. You never get to do that, like set a new culture. And I also, a really important piece of starting this program was being out in the community and selling why this was important, understanding our catchment area and the market, and getting other physicians to send their patients to Southside of this new open heart program. So that started to get me interested in things a little bit out of nursing and understand how good nursing care and quality care and clinical care in the hospital really feeds how that hospital can be successful. There's many doctors who won't send their patients somewhere because the care, either nursing or some other care, isn't good. And understanding how those two things work together. When I was taking care of a patient on a night shift, one-on-one, I never thought about the community or the physician or how this patient got here. I just thought about taking care of the patient in front of me. So that opened my eyes to all the things that feed that. From there, I was the critical care director for all the critical care, all the ICUs and critical care units at Southside. And then there was an opening in the administrative side of hospital operations for the open heart program, the cardiothoracic unit. And they said, Kristen, will you take this on as well? And I did. And I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I got to learn the administrative side while I was still doing nursing. Because at that point, my goal was still to be a CNO and stay clinical and nursing. But the best part of this experience is I got to go to rounds every day with the physicians and listen to the clinical. And I got to work with the physicians then and support them and understand the budgets and the market share and all the quality things that feed all that. And there's many physicians who want to come and do their great clinical work, but maybe don't understand all the pieces of the other things, not the quality, but the market share, the finances, all the pieces that go into feeding that. They know about it, but they don't really understand how it impacts. So having both those roles helped me to see what the physician needed and how I could support them to understand some of those things to make our overall practice better. It also allowed me to have a different type of conversation with a physician than someone who maybe didn't have a clinical background. When they talked about equipment they needed or the new type of surgery they wanted to do, I could really assist getting that information to the financial people who had to approve how we were going to get that equipment and what was really important and what quality really meant for the docs. So at some point that got a little big. The cardiothoracic program was really growing and I had to give up nursing or this. I couldn't do both roles anymore. I will say a little caveat. The reason why I gave up nursing was because the leader I had at that time in nursing did not have all those values that Emily had. So I just want to say that people do follow their leaders. So I changed my career path because I did not have a leader who I felt supported me, who connected with me and my coworkers on the nursing side. So I took this opportunity and then left nursing, stayed at Southside, but took a regional role for cardiothoracic surgery. And I covered multiple hospitals that did thoracic surgery in the Eastern region. And I did hospital operations at Southside for cardiothoracic as well. That role then changed and I took on cardiology as an AVP as well for the Eastern region. And for me, it was learning so much. And for those of you on the call who are going into clinical and think someday, how can you be an administrator? as you heard, I have no formal education in administration. They don't teach you budgets in nursing school. So everything I learned from colleagues, from putting the work in, understanding. I could understand when, like Elisa was mentioning, knowing your numbers. I could understand how many staff I had and how busy my unit was. And I could tell you probably that I was over budget or spent a lot on equipment, but I couldn't tell you that on a spreadsheet. So I had great people who I trusted and reached out to who could help me to learn those things. I got advice very early on that said, Kristen, you don't have to know everything. You just need to know who you can get it from. You can't be an expert in everything, whether it's knowing the market share, knowing what the communities need, knowing finances, whatever that may be. You don't have to know everything. You just need to know where to get it. And that takes a huge pressure off. So having great teammates around you, having a boss like Emily, who she can be tough, as she said, but she is extremely supportive. She's someone I can go to and say, I don't know what this is, and she'll help me figure it out. And having colleagues like Elisa and Laura, where we can bounce things off of. The other thing I mentioned, my family background, I come from a big family. I'm the oldest of 5, and we're all either in education or healthcare. For me, it's a team. Was a team when I was young, and then nursing is a team sport. And I still find in my administrative role, it's a team sport. When I joined Emily's team a year ago today, actually, I didn't know anyone in the Western region. I was from the Eastern region for the past 10 years, and I didn't do a lot of ambulatory. It was I had a little bit of ambulatory, but most hospital operations, and everything's a team sport. So I have this wonderful team of directors. I obviously have my other VPs, and we do everything kind of together. I know nothing about GYN. I know very little about neurosurgery, even though I had clinical background. So it's important to really depend and support the people who are experts in that area and respect their knowledge and ask them for advice and listen to them. So that's been my journey.
I have to say, this is Emily. I learned something new about all 3 of you. So I'm and I thought I know a lot about you. So you know what, the Goldman Sachs thing was like interesting, Elisa. And you know, it's all about teamwork. So you know, very happy all of you are on our team together. And you know, Staten Island is big, so continue, Kristen.
Yeah, so this is my catchment area. This is Staten Island. I also have Western Queens, which is Astoria, Long Island City, and Sunnyside. And in Staten Island is the biggest area that I cover. We have about 50 primary care physicians, about 125 specialty care physicians, multiple locations. We are growing a lot in Staten Island. That's probably the most exciting part of my role. And in Long Island City and Astoria as well, we're growing 2 big locations there as well.
Okay. Okay, great. Next slide. So you know what, we will take an opportunity. David, you tell us how much time we have. We were going to go through some of the initiatives, some of our recovery efforts. And if you wanted us to pass it, I don't know, I want to be respectful of everybody's time commitment.
I think, you know, with 12 minutes left, maybe you could talk about your, you know, why people should consider administration. What is it about the job? I know you sort of touched upon it, but you know, I think we want to, you know, emotionally, why is this a good thing to do with your life?
Yeah, I think that, David, this is a very good question. And actually, when my team, Laura, Elisa, and Kristen, they all talked about how they got to where they are today, and myself also. So when you're in high school and when you don't know what you're wanting to do, I think that, you know, going to healthcare is really, we all have a basic thought that we wanted to help people. And whether you are, once you went into healthcare, whether you are in the administrative track or in like really clinical track, you are helping your community, your patients in certain way or aspect. And sometimes like a career path bring you different doors, you open different doors and you go to different career path. and it's rewarding. Like for me as a clinical pharmacist, for Kristen as a clinical nurse, to really change to the administrative side. I found, and I don't know if Kristen find that, I sometimes still use sometimes of my clinical skills and knowledge and really help to integrate the communication with the clinical leaders. So I think that there is a lot of opportunities, and healthcare is big. It's, as you mentioned before, it's not just the providers, not just the physicians. There are a lot of ACP that people go in, and I don't know, when I went into pharmacy, and Elisa, like you, I'm not crazy about blood. So I said, I wanted to be a nurse when I first started. I was good in science and I wanted to be a nurse. But then I said that, oh, if I don't like blood, I don't want to be a doctor, I don't want to be a nurse. What else can I do that I could help people? So, pharmacists came into mind, and that's where I went into the track. And then looking at my career track back then and now, I feel like I'm still helping patients and helping everybody, but just in a different capacity. So I think that, going to healthcare, and healthcare is so diversified now that, in addition to the traditional healthcare, everybody think of hospital. Now you have a whole ambulatory network. You have like, at least in Northwell and in other health systems, you have whole like a business development, you have managed care. There is a lot of different aspects of the business, so to speak, a business aspect of healthcare that people can go into. So I feel that personally, like going to healthcare really give you a very diversified opportunity. You can go into a very different venue of things that you can choose from.
Emily, I just want to add on to that, coming from the clinical background, and so many of us go into that because we want to help people and give back and support. And one of the things leaving the clinical bedside and coming to administration, my mindset kind of changed a little bit. When I'm at the bedside, I was able to help 1 or 2 patients daily. And now as an administrator, I get to impact lots and lots of patients. Whether they're in the ambulatory practice or you're helping on the hospital side, the initiatives that you help the physicians do, or that we think of what we just did with COVID and vaccines, there's thousands and thousands of people that you're helping. So it's just a different mindset from the clinical background, but it's the same thing. We're getting the same endpoint.
This is Elisa. I just want, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to add, I know that a lot of times, when I'm trying to figure out a workflow or when I'm looking at time to appointment, I always try to get a clinical person's perspective, because it may be a little bit different than mine, because you're looking at the patient and the process, and sometimes it may take a little longer, or for something like OBGYN, a patient may not need an appointment with the day they're calling, they need to wait. So so there's different, it depends, everything is different depending on the department, but it's nice to have a clinical perspective.
So yeah, I wanted to expand on what Kristen and Emily just mentioned, and the partnership, the clinical partnership. Even though I don't have that clinical background, I've worked in healthcare for so long that I think I gravitated towards it, even though I wanted to go into another field. It was same like, and Dr. Langer asked us to expand on what brought us here after I spoke. So I'm also immigrant family, first generation, youngest out of 4. Out of the girls, I have a younger brother, but we also, immigrant family, like you either become a doctor or you become a lawyer, right? So it's like the options are very few and far between, because the, immigrant parents are like, what else can you be, right? Just as long as you have an education, you make something out of yourself. So, or become a teacher. So one of my sisters is in a physician, one's a pilot, one's a doctor, but working in that healthcare setting growing up, I knew I had a passion to help people, because I also was translating in first generation town. I was translating in Spanish because it was similar. Like I was just getting by, but there was a need to help, right? And I became a partner to the doctors in the office, and that continued throughout my career. I also thought I wanted to be a statistician. I was teaching statistics as an adjunct professor as an undergrad student. I love statistics. So Chris and I had no idea you wanted to do math along the same lines, but I worked at NBC I got an internship at NBC. I actually met when The Apprentice first came out. And I thought like, oh, this is so cool, you know, I'll see Trump. I hated it. It was so corporate. There was no like emotional feel and pull. I was doing ad sales research. I was selling airtime to like companies like Mercedes during like commercials. But I learned that, and you know, you can connect the dots. You know, everyone says that connect the dots looking backwards. In this role, even though I'm not a clinical, you know, don't have that clinical background, the strategic plan, right? The market share analysis that we look at, I did that as an intern looking at market share analysis to sell airtime at NBC. So I had already like some kind of sense, some kind of like baseline knowledge, even though I hated it. I knew I did not want to do it. So I quickly rerouted, and I knew I had to go for my master's. But to this day, I know that I cannot be successful without partnering up with clinical leadership. They are my counterpart, right? I can only, and Emily's taught me this, right? And Kristen, you said something that resonated to me from a mentor. I don't need to be an expert in everything, right? It's that partnership. And you know, I have no finance background, but I learned it, right? I remember the mentor who told me this, Susan Somerville. She's like, you don't have to be a finance major. You don't need to know it. Just know who you can go to. And Emily has also taught me that, right? It's that partnership. Like you need to align yourself and really feel that you own something to make a difference. So as you all were talking, I was like, you know, we have so many commonalities, but and a different perspective on things, but together, you know we can lean on each other and accomplish bigger things. So I really am grateful to have you all as my counterparts and, you know, tap into your brains to see a different perspective. So it's really just amazing hearing it going backwards as the first speaker. I'm like, wow, yeah, I didn't know that, but we have an amazing team.
Yeah, I see a question about industrial engineers, and I just wanted to say we work with industrial engineers all the time on optimization and process and how methodical they really are, and help me put together workflows that are best practice. So yes, we work with industrial engineers all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to answer this question because it is very important. Somebody asked, throughout your career, what do you think specifically helped you to become equipped for your administrative position? I didn't realize that, but I was very fortunate. And I told my team also that throughout my career, you know, it's very important to find a mentor who is willing to tell you the truth, the whole truth and everything about the truth, because transparency helps you grow. I have one mentor who told me this sentence. I use it on everybody now, because he pulled me aside and he said, Emily, I just want to say this to you. He said that you can do it, but you can't do it. I said, what are you talking about? This is like a paradox thing. He said that you have the technical skills to do it, but you don't have the organization, the political awareness to get this job done. In a sense, really teaching me that my skills on technical may be strong, but your people skill may not be as strong, and the relationship building may not be there to help it. So I think that, you know, that really become my thing, that I really need to always understand where everybody is coming from, and so that we learn from each other and collaborate with each other. So I think that for all of you out there, if you wanted to really continue to grow in healthcare, and this kind of program is perfect because you've got to network and meet with a lot of people, with the neurosurgeons or whoever it is that you come your way. Find somebody who can be a true mentor, who will tell you that you are very good, and who can also tell you you shouldn't do this because this is not really good. But be frank and tell you why you're not good, so that you can learn from your mistakes and learn from those obstacles, so then you can become better. Okay, there are a lot of questions, and I know that the time is almost up, but how long does it take for you to find a team that you could thoroughly rely on trust? It is just, it's very hard to say, because, you know, every career opportunity you take brings you to work with a different team. And it's really like, as your career continue to grow, you will be you will be meeting people, and you just have to find it, because your experience continue to learn and then to tell you what you need to do. I am so sorry, but I have a 10 o'clock that I need to drop off, but please, continue to do this. I really, Dr. Langer, David, I really thank you for this opportunity. I really enjoyed it. And I think that this is really something that I wish that we can continue to grow, to really talk to. I look upon all of you are leaders of the futures. Whether you are going to be in healthcare or administrative, it is an opportunity to really explore that you can, the future is an open book. Now is the time to explore and learn as much as you can in all areas. And because every experience become like your skill set becomes a toolkit that you could draw on later in life. Thank you so much, David. Thank you, Ashley.
Yeah, I also have my director's meeting that I have to kick off at 10.
Thank you guys so much, Emily, Elisa, Kristen, Laura, and especially Julissa, for being a part of this. We really appreciate it. And stay tuned next week. Next Thursday, we'll be back at 9 with another group and more talk on this subject. So thank you guys so much for participating, and thanks everyone for sticking around.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. All right, everyone, it's 10 o'clock.